and welcome to the latest 4-H Live Learning Series. Missouri 4-H has done a series of these, and this week will all be about business and literacy. Today we are going to talk about basic literacy, basic financial literacy, in fact. But first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cindy Wells. I'm the 4-H Youth Specialist in Buchanan and Andrew counties in Northwest Missouri. And thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to share some of my knowledge and some of the important facts about basic financial literacy. The first thing I'd like to do is lead us in the 4-H Pledge. If you would, please join me in the 4-H Pledge. I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world. Okay, now let's go ahead and get started. We are going to talk about basic financial literacy today, and we are going to learn about money, spending, income, expenses, savings, and budgets. We're going to do it in a quick, fast way because obviously these don't last very long, but hopefully you get some basic knowledge and we'll be able to do that. Now, before we spend any money, we have to have money, which is called income. The most usual source of income is a paycheck, which you earn when you get a job and work for someone. Once we have income, we can then begin purchasing things or buying. Now, I'd like to share a little poem with you. It was able for you to download, but I'm going to share it on my screen and real quickly talk about that. You should be able to see a work a little, earn a little poem. Work a little, earn a little, work a little, earn a little, work, 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 and earn a little more. Save a little, spend a little, save a little, spend a little, save, 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 and spend a little more. Want a little, need a little, want a little, need a little. Want, and need a little more. Give a little, share a little, give a little, share a little, give, and share a little more. Work a little, earn a little, work a little, earn a little, work, 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 and earn a little more. That's just a quick poem to teach you that you have to earn a little before you can spend a little. It's also important to save and give a little. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. The things we buy become needs or wants. Needs are things we have to live or survive. Wants, what are some things you think might be needs? That's right. Some needs are things like food and clothes. Those are things we need to survive. We can't get along without those. Things we buy can also be something called wants, which are things we like to buy, but we don't have to survive. What do you think some examples of wants might be? Think about that for just a second and respond in the chat box, or just raise your hand and do that. Good. Some things wants might be, maybe there'll be some things like Starbucks coffee. That's definitely a want. A new fish for your fish tank. And for me, it could be some new yarn for my crocheting or some new material for my quilting. Those are things I don't have to survive, but I sure like and want. Now, I'm going to give you a list of items. I'm going to share my screen here in just a second, give you a list of items, and I want you to determine if these are considered needs or if they are considered wants. Give me just a second. Okay, what I have here is a list of needs and want. I'm going to just read these for you very quickly. These are wants, and then we'll kind of go through the list and determine which are needs and which are wants. Food, clothes, water, car, cell phone, latest smartphone, shoes, expensive name brand shoes, iPad, Vacation, movie tickets, video game, or music download. Let me again go. I'll set the list so you can see it on our screen. I'll scroll down slowly. Okay, let's just start at the top. Very quickly, what do we have here? We have food, which is definitely a what? Definitely a need. Clothes, also in water, are also needs. Car. If you're under 16, a car may not be a need, but a car is a need for parents if they go to work, people as they go to the stores to get things that they need, the groceries and things. So it can be considered a need. A fancy car, that might be considered a want. You don't have to have a fancy car, just a car. A cell phone, in today's world, that's definitely a need. But the latest smartphone, is that a need or a want? I think it might be more of a want. You can get by with just any cell phone if you have to. Shoes are a need. What about expensive name brand shoes? Those might be more of a want. Again, as long as the shoes cover your feet and do their job, they're good. But maybe we need the more expensive, which would be a want. An iPad. An iPad can be a need or a want, depending on your career. For the most part, an actual iPad might be a want, but having a technology, some kind of a tablet or computer anymore is basically a need. Vacation, is that a need or a want? That's a want. How about movie tickets? Do you have to go to a movie to survive? That's also a want, as are video games and music downloads. So now that we've kind of talked about some of the things that their needs or wants, we can move on. Based on your income, we can, and your needs and wants, we have something we can do called a budget. And using a budget, you can prioritize your spending. Now we are going to do something, we're going to participate in something, a fun little game that will help you determine how you can set budgets. It's called the Bean Game, and the handout was available for you to print out. I have my handout here. I also put it on my screen. We're going to go through it on the screen. I also have 20 beans. If you can see, I have black beans, and I have 20 of them, okay? So I've got 20 beans that we're going to use to play this game. I'd like you each to make sure your board or there's at least 2 sheets that you're actually going to do budget. I'd like you to have beans, 20. Remember, we're limited to 20. You can also just take a marker or a pencil and color in beans, but you'll have to keep track because we're going to spend beans or budget beans because the beans are considered our income, and you cannot spend over 20 of them. So I need you to follow along with me. Let me share my screen, bring up my bean board, if you will. Okay. This should look very similar to something that you have. The bean board, it was available to print off. Each day we make choices, as it says here, based on what we value as important by assessing whether our time, energy, and money is worth it. This game, which is actually adapted from a 20 bean salary, is going to let us discover what's most important to us and how we spend our money, and how your personal experiences and values actually affect our money management decisions. So we're going to start through this bean map, if you will. Again, this is printable and you should have it in front of you. If not, you can follow along with mine. We're going to go through it one piece at a time. So the first thing we have, and notice the bean map, let me back up. The bean map has stars above some of the icons. So for example, beside housing, there's a star. Besides food, there's a star. We've already established that housing and food, clothes, and some other things are needs, not wants. This board is divided into categories. Some of them are considered needs, some of them are considered wants. So we're going to go through these and one at a time, work through this. Now, here's the scenario. You have an income of 20 beans. Using this handout or the handout on the screen, again, you can use the handout on the screen if you don't have it printed out, you're going to make some choices. Looking at the bean game sheet, you'll see you have a star by some of them. Again, I just explained those are the needs, and then we'll also have some wants. If you have the sheet in front of you, again, place the beans on the actual sheet till you use up all 20 of your beans. If not, simply keep track. If you have the sheet, you can also color them in, of course. If you don't have the sheet in front of you, you can simply keep track and then tally those up. So let's go ahead and work with our beans. Let me move my bean sheet in front of me here. Excuse me. So we have our 20 beans. Let me get my 20 beans out here so I can keep track. So the first one is housing, and we can live with relatives sharing the cost of utilities, and that costs us 2 beans. You can share an apartment house with roommates, which would be 3 beans, or you can actually rent your own place. So go ahead and make your choice. Okay, put your 2, 3, or 4 beans down or color those in. Now let's skip over by food since we have it right here. Our options for food is we can cook at home, dinner out once a week, and that's going to cost us 2 beans. Frequent fast food lunches and weekly dinner out, which is 3 beans. And all meals away from home, which would be 4. Excuse me. Okay, so again, food, cook at home, dinner out once a week. Frequent fast food lunches or weekly dinner out, all meals away from home is 4 beans. Go ahead and put your beans down. Okay, the next thing we have, and again, these both have stars by them, so their needs, is insurance and clothing. Now, auto insurance, you're required to have liability, or you can have complete coverage, which is a more extensive insurance. You can have health and disability with no coverage, basic health coverage, individual health, renter's insurance, and homeowner's insurance for your property. Okay, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and make your decisions. Once you do that for insurance, let's skip over to the clothing, and you can wear your present wardrobe. You can use your sewing skills and make your own clothes. You can go to a discount or thrift store and get used clothes. That'd be like going to garage sales. Or you can shop for designer clothes. Laundry is another option, and you can do your laundry at your parents' house. You can use a laundromat with some dry cleaning, or you can rent and purchase washer and dryer. So again, let's make those choices. Make your choice for auto insurance. You make your choices for health and disability. And you make your choices for renter's insurance or your property insurance. Do the same for clothing and your laundry. Okay, how are we doing? Are we getting low on beans yet? Next, we're going to move on down to the second sheet, and we're going to have transportation. Now, notice transportation is again considered a need, not a want. So you have some options to make. You can walk or bike, which is no cost. You can ride a bus. You can buy fuel for the family car, buy a used car and gas, or you buy a new car and gas. So make your choices. Okay, another need is furnishings. Are you going to borrow from friends and relatives? Are you going to rent furniture or live in a furnished apartment, buy at a garage or thrift sale, or buy new furniture? So make your choices there. Okay, let's go back up. I just kind of skipped over recreation. Recreation is not a need, it is a want. So you have some choices to make there. Do you want to hike, hang out with friends? You want TV, snacks, driving around, cable TV, sports, movies, etc. Music streaming, movies, music streaming, movies and TV stream, concerts, vacations, and so on. So make your choices. We then move down to communication. We have no phone, phone with limited data, phone with unlimited data, or work with Wi-Fi at your home. And then gifts. Scroll on down. You can make your own gifts. You can purchase cards or small gifts occasionally, purchase frequent gifts for family and friends. Make your choice. And then based on if you have any beans left or not, we have savings. And here's your options for those. I won't read those to you. Now, is anyone out of beans yet? Have you made your choices? Keep in mind that we're setting a budget. We can actually move things around. So if you look at your bean board and realize that, okay, maybe if I need to save, I'm going to save 5% of my income or 10%, then maybe I don't need a phone with unlimited data. Maybe I can do a phone with limited data. So that would save me one bean that I could spend elsewhere. Okay, you can shift this board around and make choices based on basically your income or the beans that you have. Okay, I don't know about anybody else, but I ran out of beans. I had to actually shift around. I went from phone with unlimited data to phone with limited data so I could save, because saving is so important. That actually should be a priority. It's never too early to save for a rainy day, maybe needing something, an emergency comes up, that new dress that you know you're going to need for prom, any of those kinds of things. It's never too late to do that. Okay? Now, did anyone run out of beans before they even got to all their wants? Did you spend all your beans on your needs? That is an important piece and actually can be something that happens at times. I want you to work through another scenario, and we're not going to take the time to do this while we're live, but I'd like you to pretend your income has been cut to 13 beans. So instead of 20, I've taken 7 beans away, and now you only make 13 beans. I want you to work through your bean board with just those 13 beans. What kind of choices do you make? What kind of things do you need to change? And if you look on your bean board, the 4 sheets you printed out, there's actually some reflection questions on the last 2 pages. I'd like you to work through those. Now, you can also work through a more positive scenario. Let's say that you have done so well at your job that you have gotten a raise. So now you have 25 beans as income. That gives you 5 more beans to spend than the first scenario. So go ahead, take some time after this is over, and please work through those scenarios. Either losing income, so you have 13 beans, or making more income, so you have 25. Okay, we're now going to talk through a little more about budgeting. I'm going to put some budgeting tips on the screen, so give me just a second. When I stop this share, I have to go in and find those budgeting tips. And there we go. Now we're going to go through each of these very quickly. Our time is ticking away. First of all, notice the gray box. That gray box talks to you about an average expenditure breakdown, one that's recommended. Notice the 30% housing, 18% for transportation, 16% for food, 8%, and you can see the rest. 5% for clothing, and 4% for savings. Again, savings is very important. Now let's go through just a few tips. And we're not going to cover all of these in depth. This is another handout that you can print out. But one thing I want you to always remember is wants versus needs. A need is a necessity, such as housing or food. A want is something you want, you may really like to have, but it doesn't have to be a necessity. Be careful when spending on wants. Those needs are the most important, so prioritize those. Another tip that's very handy and is also, to be quite honest, kind of hard for me to follow sometimes, is pay yourself first. After budgeting for necessities and before spending anything for wants, always tuck away some money for an emergency. Put it into savings so you have it. Charging, and we're not going to get into charge cards today. That's a whole nother lesson. But before charging, I do want you to ask yourself, do I really need it? If that answer is no, then wait till you can actually pay cash or have some extra money. Okay? A good rule of thumb for budgeting is use 70% to pay your current bills, 20% for future purchases, and 10% to invest. Okay. Last but not least on that, one thing I want to point out is it's very important to track all your expenditures. The money tracking tip here is very important. Tracking all your expenditures, even the smallest expenditures. So you go to Starbucks and buy a coffee, which is, we've already talked about, is a want. Track that. That $5 or $6 you spend is a small amount, but it makes a difference. It will let you see, oh, I'm doing that 20 days out of the month. 20 times 5 is over $100 that I'm spending on Starbucks coffee. So make sure and track even those little pieces. It lets you see where things are going and lets you determine if you need to adjust your budget, where are some places that you might be able to do that. Okay? Okay, folks. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share of my screen. And that is actually all today that I have time to cover. We have talked about income and expenses on spending. We have learned about wants versus needs. We have also set up or created a budget using a limited amount of incomes or beans. That was our bean sheet. Please go ahead and use the bean game sheet again to practice those two scenarios I gave you. So let's pretend you have 13 beans, you got a pay cut, and then we can also follow up with 25 beans or a pay increase. Play around with your bean board, adjust things, and see how that influences your budget. Again, make sure and answer those questions on that bean handout. It lets you reflect, look at how your values actually impacts some of that, and also let you make some good, wise decisions and let you continue to save. This is a really good practice for real life. You may get a pay decrease sometimes, or you may get a pay increase. So make sure and do practice those scenarios. One thing I want you to remember, don't forget to save and always pay yourself first on that tip sheet. Thanks for joining us today. This has been Cindy Wells, Youth Development Specialist, Buchanan and Andrew Counties. Make sure to let us know if there are any questions. Hope you have learned some useful new information. Remember, keep making the best better and keep living to learn. Thank you.